this is a really sick population.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up.
Anything that we can do to move the needle for this population, someone has to work shift work. That's just the truth, the cold hard truth of it. Someone has to do it. And a lot of these people, they're struggling so much with having lots of metabolic issues, as you can imagine, lots of obesity. And this isn't just because of the schedule of their working. It's also what they're eating, either to try to stay awake, to get another hit of dopamine, whatever. I mean, it just garbage of the garbage. And people in the healthcare field will see this too, right? Because the pharmaceutical reps aren't bringing you a steak. They're bringing you a box of donuts. Yeah. Right. Or kolaches or something like that. So it's not just what they're exposed to that's that's contributing to the obesity. It's also, that they're feeding themselves hand over. So metabolic issues, obesity, lots and lots of hormone dysregulation. So a lot of gentlemen on hormone replacement therapy, and we're talking very young gentlemen that have no business being on hormones at this age. Lots of cancers. I was going to say which you just spoke to, and that's really hard. Yeah. Lots of glioblastoma. Really. Lots of colorectal cancers. All of the stuff that you see in the research when one's circadian rhythm is disrupted.
Anytime I post about circadian health, the benefits of sunlight and blocking blue light after sunset, I get people in my comments and messages asking me about shift work and how to actually mitigate for shift work. There are a lot of people, unfortunately, that tell people you have to quit your job in order to get healthy. And that's really not realistic for most people. There's that. And we also need some shift workers. We do need people that are willing to work these overnight jobs for healthcare, for emergency situations. And so instead of telling people to quit their jobs, which again is not realistic, what I wanted to do with this episode was to provide some solutions. So today I have on Courtney, who is a nutritional therapy practitioner, who had a husband who was working shift work. And it was not just a straightforward shift work, it was rotating shift work. He was struggling with obesity, and he was watching coworkers around him continue to struggle with metabolic disorders, cancers, and just ongoing health issues. And so she decided to really study this work and help her husband. Not only did he lose weight, but he also reversed other health issues and is doing really well. So this episode is specifically for people who are working those jobs and need solutions. They need help. I'm going to put all of Courtney's information as well as her ebook on how to mitigate your diet and your lifestyle for shift work. And I hope that you enjoy this episode. If you have a friend or family member who does shift work, then make sure that you send this episode to them as well. Thanks again for listening and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Evolving Wellness Podcast, where circadian biology and quantum biology meet nutrition, lifestyle, hormones, health, and everyday conversations. I'm your host, Sarah, board certified in applied quantum biology by the American Naturopathic Medical Board and certified in nutrition by the National Academy of Sports Medicine. This is just a quick little reminder that you'll never hear a guest on this podcast whose every stance I agree with. And that's the point. These are conversations and not consultations. The information shared here is for information and educational purposes only, and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of a qualified, trusted professional for all of your personal health needs. If you want more of my content, including my free long-form articles with citations, free ebooks, membership group with more access to me and my Circadian app that helps you integrate light into your life seamlessly, make sure to visit www.sarahkleinerwellness.com. Thank you so much for listening and enjoy the podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Super excited for today's guest to talk about something that I think just gets discarded a lot by circadian health people. And when we talk about light and health, and that is shift work, night shift. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah. I'm excited to talk more about this with you.
Yes. So let's just talk a little bit about you and your background. And then we'll jump into the shift work thing, because like I said, it's something that people kind of brush over, just quit your job. And that's just not possible for a lot of people to just quit their job, right?
Most people. Yeah. Yeah, most people. Okay, so, well, my background is corporate America. I worked in corporate America for decades, and my husband did as well. In 2022, I got my nutritional therapy certification, and I've been working one-on-one with clients. I did that while I was working in corporate America, but in 2023, we decided to leave our jobs in corporate America and pursue the work that I'm doing right now with clients full time. But when we were in corporate America, my husband worked in shift work. So that's really where my passion for getting resources and support to this group of workers came from, is seeing my husband's own struggles in working that kind of shift.
Yeah. I think that's huge because, like I said before I hit record, anytime I post about circadian health, which is mostly what I post about, I will get either people from Sweden. I love you guys. I have a lot of content about that, free stuff, but shift workers. And the shift work thing is complicated. And I know we can talk about this, but people want to still have a social life. They may not have to do the shift. They work 5 days and then they have 2 days off, or they do the schedule flips. And so it's tough I definitely can't answer that in a comment. It's really something that requires a full conversation. So maybe we can let's talk a little bit about your husband, his story, and then maybe we can dive into some of those specifics, because I think that's super powerful at looking at how the shift work was impacting him negatively, and then how you were able to really support him out of that situation.
Yeah. So he probably worked the worst kind of shift work schedule. It's called a rotating shift. In Texas, it's called the DuPont schedule. And it is literally within a 30-day cycle. You're working graveyards. A few days later, you switch to days. You have a couple of days off to transition. You then go back to nights. Then you go back to days. So within a 30-day cycle, it's up and down, up and down. And never mind if overtime is thrown into that as well. That will further exacerbate the issue. So he really worked for over a decade, a really, really terrible shift work schedule. And so he's always struggled a bit with obesity. He got to the point at his heaviest at 285, and he's 5'8". So he's not a tall fella. He's 5'8", and he was 285. He also struggled with, some skin issues. So like, gut disruption that would present in skin issues. He had, just systemic inflammation, as you can imagine, low thyroid function, hormonal imbalances. Let's see, I have allergies, bowel movement issues, just a whole host of things that he was struggling with. His body was just communicating turmoil here. And so in 2019, he came to me and he was like, he had a friend that was doing the ketogenic diet. In 2019, he came to me and he was like, I really want to try the ketogenic diet, because he had seen some successes from a buddy of his. And I was like, okay, well, we'll give it a shot. I did some research and we started it. And he really only wanted to do that just from the sense he wanted to lose some weight. At that point he was pretty heavy. And he just wanted to lose some weight. And so the circadian aspect of this wasn't even on our radar at that time. I hadn't done any kind of, education around this. So he was able to lose a bunch of weight and lose a lot of these symptoms just by way of nutrition alone. But a lot of this other stuff didn't go away and you've seen this a lot. You talk about it a lot in your work, but a lot of the stuff that he was dealing with, nutrition didn't touch, the hormone function, the low thyroid function and that kind of stuff. So, further on down the line, as I started to work with people and I got some certifications and I started studying other people's work and learning more and more about it, I realized what was really going on. This wasn't just a food problem. It was predominantly a light problem, a circadian problem. And so once we incorporated a lot of the circadian practices, everything that you talk about, in your own work, that we have the needle moved so far and so fast in ways that we didn't think were going to be possible. So it's super, super powerful strategies that these people can use that I think a lot of them don't know about. When Travis was at work, his coworkers looked at him like he was crazy.
Yeah.
Whenever, he showed up in the colored lenses, or, he went outside and was trying to get, access to what he had access to in terms of like nature or grounding or anything like that. And when he would talk about some of this, like, I wake up and I go out and I get sunlight in my eyes as soon as I wake up, whenever I'm on shift, they're just like, what the hell does that even do? So, but he was seeing the changes and the way that he was feeling in his body. And so thankfully he stuck with it, but they looked at him like he was crazy.
Yeah, I think most people still do. And I do think this information's starting to hit more of a critical mass. It's becoming more mainstream thanks to people like Dr. Huberman, who, a lot of us are like, well, he says some stuff that we don't agree with, but I would rather the information get out there, than not.
It's a starting place.
It's definitely a starting place, but people still think it's not normal to go outside in the morning when you wake up. It's just not, like, why would I do that? And now that it's kind of getting more chilly outside, it's definitely not going to be something that most people would think to do, or even open the sunroof or roll the window down while you're driving. Like, why would you do that? But understanding the benefits of what it does to thyroid, what it does to hormones, what it does to appetite regulation, when you can explain that to someone, they really get it. I guess my biggest question is, how in the world did you kind of get around this shift work and integrate the circadian piece? Because that's one thing. It's like, do you still get the light in the morning if they've been up all night? Do you have them in blue blockers on shift? Like, do you change eating schedule? How in the world do you do that?
So I'll explain how we approached it with Travis. And again, just with the, nuance that this worked for the type of shift that he was on. In an ideal world, if you have to work shift work, obviously that would be like pick one shift and work that. Like if you have to work nights, is it possible for you to like work straight nights?
Schedule. Yeah.
So we can mimic daytime like consistently, or we can attempt to. So because that wasn't possible with where he was working, we had to work with what we were given at that time. But before I get into some of those strategies, I think what really like pushed him to wanting more change than just like losing weight was that this is a really sick population.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Anything that we can do to move the needle for this population, someone has to work shift work. That's just the truth, the cold hard truth of it. Someone has to do it. And I'm not, and I know you aren't either, which is why we're having this conversation. I'm not willing to cast that aside and just be like, well, find a new job. Or
we need EMTs, we need doctors, we need nurses, we need the people that are these other jobs, right? To keep things going. It's essential. And so we have to find out, because like you said, this population is very sick. There is a ton of evidence to show that shift work is essentially a carcinogen. How do we support them? Which is why obviously I wanted to have this conversation and put this episode out there as a resource for people and their family members who they love and care about. So what kind of things did you see with your husband in that job, in that population, just up close and personal?
Yeah. So lots of metabolic issues, as you can imagine, lots of obesity. And this isn't just because of the schedule of their working. It's also what they're eating, either to try to stay awake, to get another hit of dopamine, whatever. I mean, just garbage of the garbage. And people in the healthcare field will see this too, right? Because the
Vending
pharmaceutical
machine.
reps aren't bringing you a steak. They're bringing you a box of donuts.
Yeah.
Right. Or kolaches or something like that. So it's not just what they're exposed to that's that's contributing to the obesity. It's also, that they're feeding themselves handovers. I mean, we're talking about like guys sitting down with a whole pie and just like digging in while they're working nights. So, and he worked in oil and gas. Let me just also preface the type of environment that he was working with. Operators work in the oil and gas industry. But so metabolic issues, obesity, lots and lots of hormone dysregulation. So a lot of gentlemen on hormone replacement therapy, and we're talking very young gentlemen that have no business being on hormones at this age. Lots of cancers.
I was going to say.
Which you just spoke to. And that's really hard.
Yeah.
Lots of glioblastoma.
Really?
Lots of colorectal cancers. All of the stuff that you see in the research when one circadian rhythm is disrupted. And for the length of time that these individuals are working in this type of environment. So, that's all when you're working around people and you're seeing like, well, this gentleman's been gone for a few weeks because he's undergoing chemo or, he's undergoing cancer treatment or, any of this kind of stuff that starts to, it kind of makes you scratch your head and you start to think, or it did for my husband. So that was also what just really led us that like, there's got to be something more that we could do.
Yeah.
So some of the stuff that we did for Travis, which is my husband, is whenever he would, and again, let me also add a disclaimer. We don't have children. It's just me in the house. And so I know that also is going to be, it adds a very significant layer because these people, when they come home, they do want to spend time with their children. Yeah. So perhaps it would be good for you to speak to that aspect whenever we get there. But for us, when Travis got home from work, he was able to immediately take a shower and go right to bed. He didn't have to, help get the kids ready for school or, some of those things. So we had blackout blinds in the room. It was very cold. So he would sleep in 64-degree temperature. So just the darkest of the darkest room, very cold. And that immediately allowed him after his shower to just like get into bed and pass out. Once he woke up,
bed, that's always something I'm curious about, like the eating window that goes along with that. Yeah. No.
He did not. No, what we try to do with him is upon waking. So he would normally only get, on a really good day, maybe 6 hours of sleep. But when he was working shifts, so when he was on his set of nights, 4 hours was generally like as good as he was going to get. 6 hours was a really good night's sleep. So really, really struggled with getting like deep sleep for him. So when he would wake up, it would be about noon our time. So midday. And he would immediately go outside into our backyard without his shirt on, without anything on his eyes and barefoot. And he would sit there in the sun for about 15 minutes minimum before he would come back inside, grab something to eat, get a coffee made. And that's how we would do it for him. And then before he would go on shift, he would eat another meal. Sometime, or he would either do that before shift or like he would do it, cause it would still be daylight when he went on his shift. He would do it like in the first hour or so of his shift. Very rarely, especially as he got more into the work, would he eat like at midnight or something. We generally try to keep his eating window within that daytime
sunlight hours. Yeah.
Sunlight hours. Yep. And then have him fast the duration of his shift.
Yeah.
That also really helped him to have that longer, like fasting window, which we also know is super protective. Great. Because he's a guy. I know this is going to be a little bit different for women, but having that longer, he also was able to get more into like produce more ketones during that time, which is also very protective of the brain. So that's how we did the food aspect for him. And he's been very ketogenic, very animal based. Whenever we started this work, and he still does, but, pretty well maintained that. That's another thing where, people just think is, at least in that industry, that, there's nothing to it, or, like, how the hell are you not eating any carbs? It's what worked for him. in his shift. So
I've always thought that people that do the shift work probably should consider more fasting, more of a ketogenic approach, just because of the benefits of the ketones, what it can do protective wise. I know I've kind of changed my mind a little bit on carbs being, optional. But that comes with context, that
absolutely.
It completely comes with context. And if you're not someone who's circadian aligned and getting a lot of sunlight and able to really follow a normal circadian schedule, then we might want to consider something to protect your body because of all those things you mentioned with the cancer, with the obesity, with the metabolic disorders, period, which cancer is a metabolic disorder. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And at least doing that while you're working that night shift.
Exactly.
You may not do that when you go back on days or the days that you have off, but at least doing, having that extra protection and support while you're on those nights.
Yeah, I agree with that because it will wreak havoc on you. And so let's say you're working this kind of rotating schedule, because I've when I have people that do shift work, I will try to keep them like on a shift work schedule indefinitely until they're off, so even your days off, that's tough, right? You want to socialize and be with family. How did you deal with that with him? Like days off or rotating shift, and integrate all of these principles into that? You might have noticed a lot of viral posts about methylene blue lately on the internet, and there's a lot of fear that you could potentially turn your brain blue and cause toxicity issues. But what those articles aren't telling you is that those doses were 100 times higher or more than the standard dose. Now, I have actually been using methylene blue personally and have several clients that also use it. And when I choose my methylene blue, I choose Transcriptions because it is a physician-led company. They actually had 4 physicians that have used their real-world clinical experience to develop extremely effective health optimization solutions. It's pharmaceutical-grade quality because Transcription sources high-quality ingredients globally, subjecting each to rigorous testing to ensure unparalleled purity and potency. It's easy to dose. These buccal troches are actually scored, so you can divide them down into a tiny little dose to try it out. I use it for mitochondrial optimization when I've had a night of poor sleep or if I am flying. If you want to try out the brand that I use and trust, go to Transcriptions.com/Sarah K for 10% off of your first order. That's TROSCRIPTIONS.com/Sarah K for 10% off of your first order.
So, that actually was a little difficult when he would be on days, because he would go to work and it's still dark out because it was 5 o'clock in the morning. So it's still dark. When he got home, it would be 5:30 ish in the evening. So we're here in Texas, so that he would get sunlight there. But how would he eat his meals? I think so he would take his breakfast with him to work. Sorry, it's been almost 2 years since he's been out of it. He would take his breakfast with him to work. And again, within that kind of like first hour of him, like getting to work and kind of having the shift change, he would eat his meal, and then he would eat like his second meal around lunchtime, which would be noon. So that's reasonable. And then when he would have dinner. So whenever he was on days, he was eating 3 meals a day. Whenever he was off, I think he would just do the 2, because we typically just do the 2, but whenever he was on days, he would do 3 meals. So, and then the red light, he didn't do, we do have a red light panel. Well, I don't have it in this room, but we do have like a full body red light panel that he would also utilize, but not. I do have a piece on that in my ebook about how, one could use like red light therapy for shift work. He didn't really do that whenever he was working nights. He would incorporate it like on his off days. So if he was like off from work altogether, and sometimes he would do it in the morning before his shift started for days.
That's good. Yeah.
But he didn't do a lot of that at night, because at that point, whenever he was waking up, he had access to sunlight. And that's what my preference would always be: sunlight first, and then using like red light therapy devices as adjuncts. Mm-hmm. Now, so I have to be careful with this one with like blue light blocking glasses.
Yes.
I don't recommend that people wear them when they're driving.
No, unless they're yellow. Those are usually okay. But
I do. Yeah. If I'm like going to the airport and it's still dark in the morning, I'm going to have mine on. The yellow, the yellow ones are fine.
Yellow. Yeah.
So yeah.
Not red.
So on his way home, not red. On his way home from getting off of like a graveyard shift, he would wear his yellow daylight lenses. And that's predominantly what he wore while he was on shift too, because he worked in front of a bunch of monitors. To make things much worse, not only are we working overnight, but he had a whole bunch of monitors because he was a board operator. And so he was in front of all of these tech screens. So he would wear his yellow lenses while on shift. And then on the way home, to try to mitigate some of the headlights and just the lights that you're driving under to get home, he would still wear his yellow lenses to help mitigate some of that artificial light, so that it's hopefully less disruptive of his melatonin when he got home, so that he could fall back into sleep. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what else, how we would support him. Hydration. Oh my gosh. Yes, hydration is also such a huge issue. Yeah. So we've always used, one of the things, I don't like a lot of supplements. I don't think you do either, at least not the further into this work you get. Yeah. I think the less heavily you rely on, just because the more you know kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But one of the things I still won't compromise on is minerals and the use of like good quality electrolytes. Mm-hmm. Even more important in this population, just by nature of what you are doing, especially the type of environment that you're in, that's typically going to be very high non-native EMF, very dehydrating. Yes. So he's always been really, really diligent about, at my pushing, but really diligent about the electrolytes and making sure that he's getting adequate water consumption, good quality water, but also minerals with that. Mm-hmm. So that's another really important piece.
Yeah. And just to kind of further that, I think anyone, whether shift work or not, if you're working in an office, I would 100% pre-treat with red light or sunlight, because you're going to get the same things, and have the minerals, because what we know with red light is it's actually protective of the blue light and can help to precondition the mitochondria. That's Dr. Glenn Jeffrey's work. But Dr. Pollack's work shows us that non-native EMF actually dehydrates us 15 to 20%. And that's the Wi-Fi that we're all going to be surrounded by inevitably in those environments. And so we really have to work to replenish that as much as possible. So yeah, I think anybody who's going to be in that environment, and especially at night as well, because you're altering your cortisol melatonin patterns, which can also create a fluid shift. And so, very good. If
I there were things that I would do different, if he were still working in that environment, and just get just to what you just said, one of those little panels that he could just like lean up on, on his console or on his desk. Absolutely. Even for the time that I was in corporate America, I worked in an open office cube environment. Mm-hmm. The whole thing's run on Wi-Fi. So there was no option to be hardwired in and not be surrounded by that. But to your point, that would have been an excellent adjunct while I was there. I was really good though. This is another pro tip here. Really good about every single hour. I mean, you could almost like find the smoker in your office and be like, they're going outside for a smoke break. I love that. I'm going outside for a light break. So just you're getting movement in and you're getting sunlight in while you're doing that. That's another really, really awesome hack there.
Yeah. And you're resyncing your circadian rhythm. You know, when you're in an office, that rhythm becomes very suppressed. If you're behind glass or under those lights, it's confusing. The Kelvin is higher than typically what the sun is. The lux is way lower than what it is outdoors. You're not getting any UV, red or infrared. And so
the flicker is atrocious.
Yes, for your nervous system. And so you're putting yourself into essentially high beta. You're going into this like over, you know, hyped nervous system place without even realizing it. It's just kind of what you get used to, but then you go outside and that can help you get back into alpha through the grounding. You sync up with the sunlight, you get the red and the infrared. So I think a lot of people think it has to be perfect or I'm not going to do it. I live in the, you know, I'm in a city, I'm in a bunch of, I'm in an office park. There's no nature. Well, you touch concrete, you know, you still get the sunshine. It doesn't have to be perfect in order for you to get benefits. And I think that's the most powerful thing about your husband's story is that it wasn't this ideal thing where he did quit his job. He was able to lose the weight. He was able to feel better and avoid all these health issues through kind of, now I don't like to call it biohacking, but adding in these little hacks, these little light breaks, these small things, they can make a huge difference on the whole entire system, right?
Yeah, they're not hacks. They are the foundations.
Yes.
We're just bringing them back in.
Yes.
And when people are like, well, you know, there's no point in doing it because it will never be perfect. Stop making excuses. It will never be perfect. Do what you can. There is always something that you can do. It will never be perfect.
Right. Right. Exactly. And I get a lot of messages, I'm sure you do too, of people, I can't move, I can't quit my job, I can't do this, I still have kids, I have all these commitments, so what's the point? And I think that's just the wrong, and I've been there. I've 100% been there. You know, a kid with special needs that requires a lot of me. My life is different in a lot of ways from other people in that we don't really do a lot of traveling. We don't really do a lot of vacations and things like that because it's more stressful to do them than to not. But there's still ways to support yourself, even in the most stressful of stressful situations, even when your job and the life and the timing isn't ideal. There's still ways to do this, and it's better to do them than to not do them in every situation. Yeah.
100%. There is something that you can do.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I love about this conversation is because it's not quit your job. It's not move. It's, hey, let's try this. And so just to kind of review before we maybe talk about through some other kind of shift work and maybe even other jobs, ketogenic diet is something to put on the table. Consider.
Absolutely. Yep.
Or at least not going to eat out of the vending machine, the sugar, the energy drinks, all the let's talk about the caffeine for a second. Because that's a huge one with shift work. And
oh my gosh, it's so bad.
The coffee pot caffeine or like what, how did you guys deal with that?
Oh no, he still used caffeine.
Okay.
He would cut himself off at a particular time of the night.
Okay.
I want to maybe 10 p.m. if he got there at 5 if he got there at 5, I think he would cut it off about 10 p.m. But that coffee pot for most people, it's going all night. Time.
Yeah.
There's never not coffee in that pot. In addition to the coffee, they often will stop at it's the energy drinks. They'll stop at the convenience store, pick up some Monsters, pick up some Red Bulls. So we're not just, back to the hydration piece. Like we're not hydrated at all.
No.
And then the water that's typically made available to the individuals that work in these environments is going to be like your 5-gallon jug of Ozarka bottled water. So garbage, just absolute garbage. So that very good point. Thank you for bringing that up. The caffeine intake is atrocious, which brings a whole host of issues along with that. Not just hydration, but cortisol and blood sugar and all of that kind of stuff. So, you have to cut yourself off, but to that point, a lot of these people, they're struggling so much with having the energy to get through a very unnatural shift that they're just constantly reaching for something that will keep them awake for the next hour.
Yep.
And that's the vending machine, or, the Monster, or the coffee, or the pie, or, a screen in front of your face, some type of impetus to keep you awake for the next hour, to get you through, the next hit. So it's discipline absolutely comes into play here. You have to want better for yourself. You have to want better for, if you're a parent, you have to want to be better for your children. So discipline is very, very important here, and that you're up against a hard battle there, because if you don't have the dopamine, you're not going to have the motivation to want to employ some of these changes.
Yeah.
And that I would strongly encourage people to work with, a mindset coach could be helpful there.
Yes. I think everybody needs a mindset coach, really.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot there. You're up against some really unnatural things there that can be really helpful to support you. But
if you're not new to my work, you already know the importance of sunlight in your daily life. But what if you have to work in an office all day long? How can you offset some of that blue light? Now, the work of Professor Glenn Jeffrey shows that preconditioning your body with red and infrared light before going into a blue lit environment actually helps your mitochondria buffer the stress of that environment. And I would recommend anyone who works in an office or has to be indoors a lot this winter to have a source of red and infrared on their desk with them. That is why I absolutely love this Bond Charge mini red light panel. And I keep it here on my desk while I'm working in my office and recording videos for you guys. And they've given me a discount for all of my listeners. All you have to do is go to the Bond Charge website, which I'll put down in the show notes for you, and use the code Sarah Kleiner for everything on the site. You can get 15% off. But if you want to get this little Bond Charge red light mini panel, this is really my favorite tool for anybody who has to work in an office and has to offset some of this blue light, because let's be realistic. We can't just quit our jobs and move, even though we might want to. So learning how to live in the modern world and mitigate it is going to be extremely helpful. And the research is there to show that red and infrared light is immensely helpful if you're in a blue lit environment. Head to bondcharge.com and check out the mini red light panel. Use the code Sarah Kleiner, all one word, to save 15% off. There will be a link down in the show notes. And those mirror neurons. So if you're in an office or an environment and you're watching everyone go to the vending machine 100 times, drink the coffee, drink the energy drink, it's hard. It's hard to watch people to do that because of those mirror neurons. And you're thinking like, it starts to look attractive. It starts to look appealing. Yeah. And then it's like the same person is going to be gone for 2 weeks because they have chemo, So you have to remind yourself of the long-term impact of some of the things that you're doing in that situation. But humans, it's hard for us to sometimes go there when we're just trying to work and we're in survival. We're trying to make money, trying to support family, make a living. And then you're kind of there. Like, how do I get through this? How do I, you need
a strong why, and a strong support system goes without saying. And that goes with anything, whether I'm working with a shift worker or not. Having a support system, especially if they're under the same roof as you, like if y'all can all do the stuff together, is so much more powerful. But what I would say with, if you're just new to starting to like dip your toe into some of this stuff and you work a shift work type of schedule, if you can start to make changes on your days off and when you're working days, so when you're in more of a natural rhythm, start to make changes on those days so that by the time you get to the nights, you've already got some momentum under your belt.
Yeah.
That would help you get through, like maybe you'll be maybe the cravings will be diminished because you're more in more of a ketogenic state. You know, maybe you'll have more discipline or motivation because you've seen how much better you started to feel just by doing it for 1 to 2 weeks before you go back onto a graveyard. So don't start it. Like if you're in a graveyard shift, like probably going to be more difficult. You're going to have to rely on discipline more than anything if you're going to start something while you're in the middle of a night shift. But if you can start it on your days or your days off, then you can get some wins under your belt to help carry you through. And then at that point, it's just sticking with it.
Yeah, exactly. And just continuing to have that support and your why. I think the strong why is really, really important because it's easy to get sucked into culture. But you and I both know, because the culture as a whole isn't thinking about sunlight, isn't thinking about food quality, isn't thinking about water quality, minerals, hydration. In fact, talking about those things sometimes will get you a lot of like, that's dumb. You get a lot of hate for talking about that, which is crazy to me. But that's where we are as a society now. There's a lot of pushback.
And if you can find another crazy person in your workplace to do it with you.
Yes. I love that idea.
Like strengthen numbers.
Yeah. How can we support our healthcare workers in hospitals? Because I feel like that is a really tough environment. And then I want to talk EMTs and police officers, people that are in vehicles, because that's another one I get questions on. But similar, right, for our healthcare workers as it would be for your husband in an office, right?
Yeah. So that's an even trickier one because, and I don't do a lot of work with shift health workers. So maybe you can help me out here. I do a lot of work with dentists, but they work straight days. Yeah. But a lot of our healthcare workers and our police officers and our EMTs, they're working 24-hour type shifts, right?
Paramedics, they are. Yeah,
that's the rotation that they're on. So that's a little bit trickier. And then obviously what they're going to be exposed to, the technology and all of that kind of stuff that they're exposed to, in addition to the light environment and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. Do you have a lot of healthcare workers that you have worked with on this kind of stuff? What kind of nuance do you think would be beneficial to?
The challenge that they run into a lot is that they have to see what they're doing, because the blue blockers are really important, but sometimes you're working on a patient, you have to draw blood, or you're in surgery, you're in the operating room. And so that's a tough one where I'm like, you need yellow blue blockers. They're like, well, I can't because I'm physically doing something where I need to see really, really well. And so for those people, I've had a few that I'll have them get the red light pad from Kelly Bento.
Yes, so
to
good.
Actually just keep on their belly while they're in there, because infrared is really the antidote to a lot of this non-native EMF. I mean, any shift worker, really, I would have some sort of an infrared on on my body, irradiating. I think that is a really easy hack for people to do. And so I have had a couple that I'm like, look, while you're operating, obviously you can't wear blue blockers, but put the blue blockers back on when you're done. Right. And keep that infrared light pad. I think her timer is 20 minutes, maybe. Keep it charged up, obviously, but keep that pad on your belly, on your gut. So you're getting the constant infrared to kind of give yourself this protective mechanism. Yeah. I also utilize hydrogen quite a bit for those people as well. Either hydrogen tablets. Axiom has a really nice hydrogen bottle that you can actually inhale from. It's not it's not as powerful as the generators that you can inhale from that they sell, but their new bottle that they just came out with in May, you can hook a cannula up to it and get, I think it's about 62. The flow rate's about a 62, 69, somewhere in there.
That's incredible.
So you can inhale. I would inhale hydrogen because that's going to help with the hydration and offset some of that radiation, or just get tablets. Those are things I have those people do. And then obviously try to get out for a light break as much as you can, just those sunlight breaks. and a more ketogenic approach. I know it's not an easy conversation for some people to have, but yeah. And maybe even considering looking at adding a little deuterium depleted water in there on occasion, doing
that's another really good one.
Depletion protocols. So
yeah.
What
do you think about, I don't have any experience with it, but what are your thoughts on the clothing? Is there any, like, are they legit? Is it effective in terms of like blocking some of the EMS that they're exposed to in their work?
Some people swear by them. And then I've had other people, August, who owns Tech Wellness, if she's been on the show a while back, she doesn't like the clothing. She says that they can actually like attract more radiation to the body.
Interesting.
So I hear mixed things on it. When I was pregnant, I did wear a belly band over my belly, just because I was trying to just do everything humanly possible to have a healthy baby. And I thought, well, no big deal. I could just wear this. So I think it's up to the individual. Dr. Sarah Pugh, she always wears her, I think it's a Bon Charge hoodie that's supposed to block non-native EMF. My husband calls her the Unabomber. She'll go out on a walk and it's nighttime and she's got her blue blockers and her hoodie on. And he's like, oh, the Unabomber's here.
Oh, poor Sarah.
She can handle it.
I know she can.
She claps back in some kind of hilarious way, but she loves her hoodie. She wears it on the airplane with her blue blockers because she'll do these long international flights. Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. That's something else to consider. I mean, at the very least, we talked about the food piece earlier. Yeah. But stay out of like the break rooms where all of the garbage is too. Like, because healthcare workers, they have the break rooms that, again, the pharmaceutical reps are going to come drop stuff off at, or, some well-meaning citizen is going to drop off a dozen donuts to the police department or something like that.
Right.
Just none the wiser, but stay out of the break rooms, stay out of the vending machines. Little stuff like that, like those little things, if you do enough of them together, they really will add up and make a difference.
Yeah. I remember once upon a different lifetime ago, because it's been about 17 years now since I've worked in an office, but the break room was my Achilles heel. I mean, donuts, like I would get so mad if somebody would bring in donuts because it's like you're in this office all day. I didn't know anything that I knew now. And then you just start thinking, like I get obsessive thinking over something. I'm not that way anymore. I really feel that the sunlight protocols, all the other things I've done, if we had donuts upstairs, I wouldn't give a shit, honestly.
Right.
I mean, it just to me doesn't even, I don't want to have a donut. I don't like how I feel when I eat those. But working in an office, you're under all that blue light, you're on the computer, you got nothing else to do. You're thinking about that donut all day long. And so the biggest thing to do is just not go in there. I think office culture as a whole, I remember it is people start talking about what they're going to do for lunch at 9:00 in the morning.
It's so true.
It's like, it's 9 a.m. Why are you already talking about what you're going to do for lunch today? It's
the only thing you have to look forward to.
Yeah, it's true. I remember I had this boss that she was just mean, and she would kind of go from person to person. Like you don't want to be her target that week, but she would really target this one poor lady named Julie. And Julie would just talk way too much. I mean, it was just classic office culture. But she would start talking about McDonald's. Like, I'm going to get McDonald's today. I'm going to go through the drive-thru today. And then she'd just go on and on about it. And then we all would get an email blast from the boss. And everyone stopped talking about what you're going to have for lunch at 9:00 in the morning. This is inappropriate. We need to be focused on our work. And she would get so mad about it. That's like stuck with me for 25 years of remembering.
This is the best conversation. I'm having some serious office culture flashbacks right now. This is incredidible. Poor Julie.
Poor Julie. I love Julie.
Yeah. We've all been Julie at some point.
Yeah, we have been, because you're stuck in this office, and going to McDonald's at noon is exciting.
It's the hit of dopamine you need to get you through the day. Yes. I get it.
But
yeah, stay out of the break rooms.
Yeah. Don't go in there. Don't put in some, get a nice pair of headphones. Mm-hmm. If I was in an office, I would be walking around with headphones in. I don't want to hear it. I'm going to take my light breaks. I'm going to bring my food in. I'm going to eat it outside.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. And I can't tell you, because I was wearing my blue light blocking lenses too in the office. I can't tell you how many times I heard the joke like, "Oh, I love your rose colored glasses."
Oh,
I guess that's like an Elton John song or something. I don't know. I'm like, haha, okay, thanks. Haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I think I need to do a post debunking everyone who says the blue blockers are nonsense, because unfortunately there are some health people out there that wear blue blockers in every single video, and they talk a bunch of nonsense that I completely disagree with. And so now it's become a thing that people say, "Oh, you're wearing blue blockers, you're wearing the colored glasses." They don't even know the proper word for them. "You're wearing the colored glasses. You don't even qualify for me to be somebody that I want to listen to. It's a sign right there that I need to not listen to you because you're wearing those colored glasses." So,
okay, then I am not for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will tell you how I even got introduced to, they weren't even blue light blocking glasses. They were literally just red lenses. And it was because when I was working in the office environment, I started getting what I can only describe as like muscle fatigue, like right here. It was literally as if like I was doing this all day and I would get like cramping sensation, like all across my brow line. And so it was worrisome. So I went to a functional neurologist.
Oh yeah.
And she had me just wear red lenses. They did not block any blue light at all. They were just cheap $25 red lenses. And it helped drop me into like a parasympathetic state. And instantly, the moment I put those red lenses on, the cramping or that fatigue would stop.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that was how and this was years ago. This was before I even got into like circadian, blue light blocking, any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that was my introduction to it. And that is why consistently, whenever I'm in front of screens, because I'll do that. I must be doing that. Yeah. Where I'm just constantly like squeezing my brows together, but it stops it instantly. So
yeah, I'm going to have Dr. Valerie back on the show in a couple of weeks, and we'll talk about that for sure. Maybe the implications from her point of view, because she's so brilliant. She explains things so well. And
she does.
I love her.
It was very scary. I had no idea what was going on. Yeah. I have a mom and an aunt with multiple sclerosis. So you can just imagine the stuff that's going. Yeah. You can just imagine the stuff so that was why I went to a neurologist. And she did all of her testing and that kind of stuff. And she was, talked about the vagus nerve and that kind of stuff, and had me do specific exercise and had me not do specific exercises. Like she wouldn't allow me to like do any kind of strength training where I had to shrug my shoulders, because the other thing that you're doing if you're an office worker is you're sitting like this all day. Yeah. Like your shoulders are up. You're just in this like really sympathetic type
dominant state.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thankfully, it was just eye strain and muscle fatigue, but those red lenses, those instantly took it away.
I love that.
Yeah.
And if you're somebody that struggles with that, stay tuned. We'll have more content on that coming soon with Dr. Valerie. I always send people to her too, because I get the contacts and eyeglasses questions, and I used to answer them all myself. And I'm just like, nope, go follow Dr. Valerie. She's on Instagram at Quantum Eye Doc, because I just don't want to type this out again. Honestly.
Yeah, she's so good. And she like the information that she gives is so good. Like clear and easy to understand, and like ridiculous detail. Mm-hmm. So yeah, very, very good follow there. Love
she has all kinds of good ebooks and just free stuff. I'm like, girl, you need to be charging for this. This is gold.
I know.
She's so good.
But, she did an hour-long video that she has posted to her YouTube channel where she just goes. I feel like she used it for her certification through the QABC.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, but it's an hour-long video. Can't recommend it enough. Absolutely should be charging for it because it is gold. But
I'm going to go find that and put it on my resources list, because that's just one really question that continually comes up is what if I have contacts? What if I have eyeglasses? And what should I do there? And just any kind of eye problems, floaters, dry eyes, she covers all of it. So
I know, she's incredible.
But yeah, if you're in an office, and that's something really important that you bring up, especially for shift work, is just continually staying in that sympathetic dominant state. And if you are a healthcare worker, especially, you're going to be more prone to kind of be on that high alert. So anything you could do to counterbalance that on a cellular level, the red light, the hydrogen, just going outside, because I think that we discount the fact of, Earth's resonance and just grounding puts you at, I think it's like 732 hertz, or I'm probably getting that wrong.
I think like 7.32 or something along those lines.
Yeah. 7 point. Yeah. I'm going to look it up after this because I'm going to correct myself and remember the whole thing. Yeah. But just for
the Schumann resonance,
that is what we need in order to put ourselves into alpha, right? Into those alpha brainwaves where we come out of sympathetic dominance, we come out of fight flight, we discharge non-native EMF. There's a whole lot of biological nervous system things that happen when we literally just go touch grass. It's not some woo-woo thing. And it doesn't have to be grass. It can be concrete. It can be, a big rock that's grounded into the earth. The rock has to be touching the earth and grounded. It could be a tree, a living tree. There's so many things that we can do when we're in those environments to pull ourselves out of that state. And I think we have to be more conscientious of
you
that.
Absolutely do. I'm so glad you brought this up, because I also think this is what you just shared is very important information for the other people in the home that are living with the individual that is working this type of shift or this type of work, because they are going to be spending a good majority of time in sympathetic dominance. So their limbic system is going to be super activated. And at times where you're like, what the hell? We're just like sitting down for dinner. Like, why are you freaking out? It's because they're in sympathetic dominance. So it becomes, number one, it becomes important for the people in the home to understand that it is not you. It is the work that they are doing to try to provide for the family, and have some compassion and understanding and grace there. But it is also very important you can support them by, not having the TV blasting. Like these kinds of things those are threats when they're locked in like a overactive limbic system. Those are all like really loud and really like everything's kind of like, I remember Travis used to be really jumpy. Like we had a Jeep that we would like to take for a ride, like no doors, no windows, none of that kind of stuff. We could not do. It was off the table if he had just come off of shift work, because he was just like super jumpy and fight or flight. Yeah. So you have to understand that, maybe the crying child or the bickering or that kind of stuff is going to be super triggering for them when they're in that state. So how can you support that? Everything that you just said. Can you go for a walk out in nature to get nature's safety signals? We were fortunate to live like 20 minutes away from our local beach. So nice. We would go there and get your shoes off, walk around in the wet sand and try to reconnect with some of those safety signals to help bring him down.
Ions. Yeah.
But I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's another really, really huge piece. And that can cause a lot of friction in the home if we're not all on the same page of understanding of what's really going on there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just my life as a caregiver, kids with special needs, and just always kind of in that worry state, the stuff that I do, just go lay on the ground. That's what I have to do sometimes when I just get into that sympathetic dominant state. This stuff has actually saved my life to just go lay on the ground. I mean, that's
lay on the ground,
lay in the
listen
sun,
to the birds,
lay on the ground. Yeah. Tune into bird songs and be around trees and be in the woods. That is what people need to do maybe before they invest in all these biohacking gadgets and do all these crazy supplement protocols. Because if your body is stuck in this state, then all those things are really just not going to work very well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Most of the foundations, all of the foundations are free. There's adjuncts to all of them, but like start with the free foundations first.
Yeah. So just to maybe close out a little bit, the people that are in, the cops, the EMTs, those are people where we would probably, if they're working night, have them wear yellow blue blockers. Kind of those same principles would apply universally, I think, to shift workers. Correct me if I'm wrong here. We want to try to still have our food in daylight hours while the sun is up. Yeah. Try not to eat before you go to bed. If you're going to bed at 6 a.m, 7 a.m, I would still try to keep food 3-4 hours away from that. Cut caffeine off earlier in your shift. Yes. I do it in the day. I cut my caffeine off by 9 a.m. here. Otherwise,
nothing after 10 a.m. for me.
And so those kind of things, you just kind of have to flip it for the shift workers. Eating in daylight hours, staying away from vending machines, junk foods, considering more of a ketogenic approach, hydration, minerals, yellow blue blockers, potentially red light applied to the body, especially if you're going to be in the car a lot, or in a vehicle, or it's a lot of non-native EMF.
Crack the windows if you can.
Crack windows. Yeah. Grounding, even if it's just touching concrete. If you're in a city, you can get grounded you can even get grounded. Dr. Laura Conover was telling me from touching signs, a signpost. They're metal and they're connected into the ground. So she's like,
oh, that's so interesting. I would have never thought that.
Mm-hmm. She said, hold the stop sign. That's grounded. All those things are typically grounded. A wrought iron post that's hooked into the ground. So we can do little things to support the body in these situations. I think you just have to be way more intentional about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the thing. You just have to be intentional about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because again, I know we can't have people just quit these jobs. We still need them. So I really want to hopefully help people with this episode, knowing there are things you can do, but you'd really want to focus in more on that. And amazing. Anything
that is
else?
The ultimate. No, thank you so much for this. But that's the ultimate message that you and I both want people to take away. And that's just that there are things that you can do.
Yeah.
To help support you while you're working these types of schedules.
Definitely. So, definitely.
Hope is not lost.
Yeah, I love it. And you have a great ebook. I will put all of your information. If you want to send me a link to your ebook bio, all that stuff, I'll put that in there so people can check that out for shift workers to help you and support you in this situation. Anything else, like if someone's just driving along and maybe, doesn't want to go down to the show notes, what's the best way for people to find you, find your information and all the great things you offer?
Thank you. I am everywhere at Neurotic Farmer on social media. Well, not everywhere. I'm not on TikTok, but Instagram is where I'm most active. So at Neurotic Farmer. And then my website is neuroticfarmer.com. I post free or really low cost protocols just to help get you started with certain things that you might be experiencing. But yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. I really enjoyed this.
And do you work one-to-one with clients also?
I do. I work one-on-one with clients. I have a program that I call the Signal Stack, and it's really everything that we just talked about. It's a foundations first program that I work with people on.
Amazing. I'm always getting people that want one-to-one help. So here you go.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Amazing. Well, thank you. This has been so cool. And I'm excited to put this out to people as hopefully a resource for anyone that's in this situation or has a loved one that's in this situation. And I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.